The legendary original lightsaber, the Graflex lightsaber, got a ton of screen time in The Last Jedi. So let's talk about 5 of the most shocking uses of the Graflex lightsaber in The Last Jedi. So the first shocking use of the Graflex lightsaber was pretty early on in the film, and that was simply when Rey was handing the lightsaber to Luke. Luke kind of picked it up, examined it for a little bit, and then he tossed it over his shoulder, kind of like it's nothing. And I know that quite a few fans were a little offended by that moment. It just seemed like, well, this is such a legendary object, both within the Star Wars galaxy and also just within the real world, and to treat the saber that way kind of disrespectful. So some people didn't like that. I thought it fit in with the story very well. First of all, it was meant to be a comical moment and kind of unexpected, and I thought it worked. I thought it was kind of funny and unexpected. I also thought it really was a very powerful way to show Luke's disillusionment with kind of the Jedi organization. And even though it's sort of a mundane thing, he's tossing this lightsaber away kind of like it's nothing, and that shows he's truly kind of over it, and he's truly, well, I don't know, depressed, or uh, he's truly gone to that island to die, as he says a bit later. So it's a little bleak and depressing, but I thought story-wise it actually worked pretty well, while oddly enough being a comical moment. But leave your own comments in the comment section about what you thought about that moment. Another shocking use of this lightsaber, the Graflex, was when it was used to kill Snoke. So this was when Rey and Kylo and Snoke are in the throne room along with the guards, and this lightsaber is just kind of sitting on the throne next to Snoke, and Snoke's given this big speech how he basically knows everything that Kylo Ren is going to do before he even does it, and like right after he's given that speech, Kylo Ren uses the Force and slices Snoke in half. And, well, either that means Snoke that knew somehow that Kylo was going to do that, even though, well, Snoke said that he thought that Kylo was going to kill Rey at that point, but, people don't always say what they're actually thinking. So either Snoke actually knew that was going to happen, or Snoke genuinely didn't know this one moment in Kylo Ren's life and his thought process. So who knows? We'll get more information on that maybe in the next movie. But nevertheless, that was pretty shocking for the audience, I think, for Kylo Ren to activate the saber like that and just kind of kill Snoke so abruptly. A little bit of a surprise. Okay, a third shocking use of this lightsaber was actually when Kylo Ren and Rey, they kind of swapped using the lightsaber, and when they were fighting off all the guards after Snoke's death, they worked very well as a team, and she kind of tossed this over to him at one point, so they both used it, and it's kind of funny because in the last movie, we see them both, trying to call this saber to each of them wants to call the saber to them. Rey is able to call it to her, and Kylo isn't. And so, they're fighting over the saber essentially in the last movie, and in this one, she willingly kind of gives it to him. And this is also a pretty good setup for what happens a bit later, and that actually leads me right into the fourth most shocking use of the Graflex. And that's a bit later when Rey says, "No, I'm not joining you, Kylo," when, he wants her to join him. And they end up fighting over this saber again. They're both, calling it to them with the Force, one on one side, one on the other. They're both, straining a lot. And they ultimately rip it in half, which, wow, that was pretty big when that happened. I wasn't expecting that. It shows how powerful they are, and I think it shows in a way that at this point in time, Kylo and Rey are evenly matched because the saber splits right in the middle. They're both very powerful. In the last movie, and even towards the beginning of this movie, it's implied that Kylo is kind of a bit weaker, but I think this moment shows that they're just pretty evenly matched and split. And we also remember we don't see them directly fighting in this movie, and so there's no like rematch of the Force Awakens lightsaber duel, so we don't truly know who would win, in that situation. We'll probably have to wait for the next movie for that to happen. The final shocking use of the Graflex lightsaber was, well, after this lightsaber had been split in two, so Luke shows up as, his Force projection self to serve as a distraction so that, the Resistance people can get away at the end of the movie. And when he's the Force projection version of himself, he uses the Graflex. So he doesn't use his green Return of the Jedi lightsaber, he uses this one. And he uses it against Kylo, who had just seen this lightsaber being split in two. So I know some people didn't like that scene because it's like, well, duh, Kylo should know better. What's with that? But I thought that was a good throwback moment. It's kind of a throwback to Obi-Wan fighting Vader in A New Hope, where he's doing the exact same thing. Obi-Wan's providing a diversion so that Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, etc. can get away. And so Luke using a blue-bladed lightsaber like the Graflex kind of, it's a good throwback to that. And it's also just a good throwback to the classic blue lightsaber versus red lightsaber situation. Good versus evil, sort of in its purest form, was the red versus blue. And just finally, the significance of this lightsaber to both Luke and Kylo. Kylo really wants this lightsaber still, presumably, because it was his grandfather's. This was Luke's lightsaber before, and there's a lot of history packed into this. So for Luke to use this lightsaber, even as a Force projection, I'd say was pretty significant. So those are the 5 most shocking uses of the Graflex lightsaber in The Last Jedi. What do you guys think about this? Can you think of some more situations? I mean, this saber was used a lot, so I'm sure you can come up with some more things. And also, what do you think about each of these situations? Please leave your comments in the comment section.